The purpose of this video is to provide guidance on how we recommend adding a supplemental eDNA sample to your current Veliger microscopy plankton tow protocol. With a few simple additions to your current protocol, the hundreds of tows being taken currently could be used to provide eDNA samples as well. We will be using the WRP recommended standard Veliger tow protocol supplemented with our recommended FLBS eDNA sample collection protocol. This will highlight the essential steps and procedures which can be included if you wish to incorporate eDNA into your existing plankton tow protocol. Additionally, we provide recommendations at the end of this video for how to deal with composite sampling. The essential elements to be emphasized are decontamination, gloves, DI blank collection, eDNA sample collection and preservation. You will need the following: this list also appears in the accompanying protocol. It's good to stay organized when on site. Keep sample collection equipment and samples away from clean supplies. This helps you build in habits to avoid contamination within your sampling routine. The lid from your decon container or other flat surface with the site kit bag spread out on top can be used to set decontaminated samples on. If you're concerned about contamination, wipe down the area with a 10% bleach solution and rinse with DI water. We like to keep a screw cap container with a sponge available to wipe down surfaces. Put on clean latex or nitrile gloves. Get all of your blank and sample collection equipment and supplies organized and ready to go, as well as a designated area for contaminated equipment and a garbage bag for single-use supplies like gloves. We like to bring 2 additional garbage bags along in the site kit. The first step is to collect the DI blank. Put on gloves and place your 50 milliliter tube rack and labeled tubes on the clean surface. Use a sponge to wipe down your pole with 10% bleach solution and rinse thoroughly with DI. Change your gloves and place the dirty gloves in the site's designated garbage bag. Remove your decontaminated net from the storage bag. Attach to the decontaminated pole. The net and pole must not contact contaminated surfaces during this process. Attach the cod end to the adapter of the net. Make note of which net you use for the blank. Try to take the blank using a different net at each site. With one person holding the net off the ground and away from contaminated surfaces, thoroughly rinse all internal surfaces and edges of the net and cod end with 1 gallon of DI water. If using a rope or winch, we recommend doing the DI blank prior to attaching the line to the net bridle. Be sure to rinse all inner surfaces of the net. Allow the water to drain through the mesh. Take care that water does not splash back up and contaminate the blank. Once the water is below the level of the connection between the net adapter and cod end, detach the cod end and remove as much residual by allowing it to drain through the cod end mesh. This may take a while in some water bodies. A good strategy is to hold the cod end at an angle while tapping the screens carefully. Set the net off to the side on a clean surface. The net and cod end from DI blank can be used again if they've not contacted contaminated surfaces. Using the bag it came in is a good option. Turn the cod end so the screen is facing up to stop remaining material from leaking out. Remove the cap from the 50 milliliter tube designated for your blank. Using the ethanol squirt bottle, rinse the cod end screens and transfer any material to the bottom of the cod end and pour it into the 50 milliliter tube. Top off the tube with ethanol to reach at least 75% preservation concentration. Store the DI blank in a cooler out of direct sunlight on ice. Discard gloves in the designated garbage bag. Record the blank sample information on a datasheet, Appendix D. Here we demonstrate how to collect an eDNA sample from your standard Veliger tow. We will be using a pole and net to collect our sample by walking around a dock. As long as the net and cod end from the DI blank have not touched contaminated surfaces, reattach the same cod end to the same net. A clean net and/or cod end must be used if these items were contaminated. Put on clean gloves. To add an eDNA sample to your Veliger protocol, reattach the cod end to the net and conduct your toe sample per standard protocol. When pulling the net out of the water, rinse all material down into the cod end. This can be done by submerging the mouth of the net and washing the material down. You can also use a spray unit to do the same job. The net and cod end should be kept away from contaminated surfaces until the cod end is removed, and be careful not to contaminate clean areas with water draining from cod end or net. Allow the water to go fully down the net and through the cod end. If material is left in the net, DI water should be used to flush the material down into the cod end. Make sure the water level is below the connection between the cod net adapter and the cod end. Unscrew the cod end piece without spilling contents and use a squeeze bottle to rinse contents further in this piece if necessary. Place the used net in a contaminated equipment bag and set aside if using new nets for each sample as we do here. Concentrate the sample as much as possible by swirling the contents in the cod end piece. To avoid contamination, do this away from sample collection supplies. Samples should not be excessively large if concentrated correctly. Aim for about 20 milliliters. Turn the cod end so the screen is facing up to stop remaining material from leaking out. We recommend a final wash with 95% ethanol from a squeeze bottle to rinse all material down and then swirling the material down to homogenize. Remove the cap from the 50 milliliter tube designated for the eDNA sample. Pour the homogenized 20 milliliter sample into your eDNA tube. Remove the cap from the Veliger tube. Pour 10 milliliters of the homogenized sample into the Veliger tube. Top off the eDNA tube with ethanol. Final ethanol concentration should be at least 80%. Replace the cap and store in a cooler. It is crucial to close the lid very tightly because ethanol evaporates quickly, and this will reduce the overall concentration of preservative in your sample. Next, add 5 milliliters of the baking soda buffer to the Veliger tube and top off with 95 to 100% ethanol. If you are compositing your Veliger samples, prior to homogenization with other samples, collect and store the aliquot for eDNA per the previous steps. The remaining material can then be collected for your composite sample per your standard protocol. To decontaminate your equipment, you will need These steps can be done in advance to reduce time spent in the field and potential sources of contamination. This should be done in addition to your agency's recommended Veliger decontamination procedures, described in Appendix A of the accompanying protocol. First, put on gloves and eye protection. Gather enough bleach. Prepare a 30% bleach solution. This could be 1 gallon of bleach to 2.33 gallons of water, or 3 parts bleach to 7 parts water for other volumes. See Appendix C. This solution can be used for 24 hours if kept out of direct sunlight. If you're in the field, this concentration can be lowered to 20% if soak time is extended. Place nets, cod ends, and other components in the bleach container for decontamination. Ensure that all surfaces are exposed to the solution. You may rest the dishwasher gloves on the edge of the decon tub. Set a timer to 20 minutes and start. At approximately 5, 10, and 15 minutes, agitate and reposition the equipment such that previously exposed surfaces are now contacting the bleach. You can set 4 separate 5-minute timers. While the other equipment is soaking, wipe the pole down with 30% bleach using a sponge and then rinse with tap water. Here, we show a hose being used to spray down the equipment. Remove nets, cod ends, and other components from the bleach container. Try to drain as much bleach liquid as possible from the equipment back into the decon tub. Move the drained equipment to the tub of fresh water you prepared. This removes more bleach before doing the final rinse with tap water. Thoroughly rinse the net with water. Rinsing well is important because bleach will break down DNA in future samples and make the net material brittle. Allow the materials to dry. We recommend having a sterile area set up ahead of time and hanging a line for drying nets. Rinse off the other equipment and place on a clean surface to air dry. Once the equipment is thoroughly dried, place it in a garbage bag and set it off to the side. We store the bagged decontaminated material in individual site kits along with pre-labeled eDNA sampling tubes and Veloger collection bottles. The previous steps will need to be done between samples unless you have enough decontaminated nets for the entire day, or if you're only concerned with detection and you're compositing samples within the same water body or have nets dedicated to sites or each water body. This should be done in addition to your agency's recommended Veloger decontamination procedure. Chlorine test strips work well to test for residual bleach. Your label should include the site name, sample ID, the date, and your initials. It is important to label both the cap and the body of your tube. It is also helpful to keep the same format for your labeling throughout the project. Once you have finished labeling the tube, cover the writing on the side with clear tape so that it doesn't get washed off by ethanol.